So here's where I believe a lot of people are getting tripped up. It's because there is all these actual physical realities are happening all together at the same time. But to your senses, meaning your eyes, your brain, your body, your sensations, your perceptions, you're perceptually only seeing one visible reality at a time. So your focus keeps returning and trying to justify and rationalize and fight the visible reality. So here's a trick I can tell you is imagine that for the rejection letter, say for example, let's just take a rejection letter from employment for an example, that you received in your hand in the 3D where you can feel the paper and see the writing, or in an email. Imagine the exact same thing, but in, like, say it's an email form, imagine the alternate email to that, right? And then write that down somewhere and follow that script. So here's where people are getting tripped up. They can't keep track of their imaginary scripts, and they keep returning to the sensory the sensorily perceived script, which is on your phone, on your messages, on your smartphone, on the email, etc. So instead, I would suggest you write that down somewhere in form of like a notebook or something, and then write what you decided actually happened, or what the conversation was, and then just leave it, okay? Don't try to show up at work, or don't try to go there ready to work where you received a rejection letter. You don't have to make it happen. Just allow it to be, but follow and keep in your awareness the writing that you decide. So I think unfortunately where people are tripping up and nobody is telling anybody what to do is they talk all these big talks about stay in your end, there are infinite versions of reality, but if you keep opening your phone and seeing the same rejection email or message, you're not going to be able to stay in the reality of your choice. Simple as that. So I would suggest number one is to any kind of messages or emails that are not to your liking, you write the alternative script in a notebook and say that was what was in the email, and date it and time it and follow that script anytime you need to refer to something. I would also suggest to delete any messages or anything from your eyeballs that do not serve you, okay? If you can't, then that's fine. If you need to leave it alone. Just leave it be. Treat it as behaviors, glitches. Again, remember, anything on your phone is human-made and it's not reliable. If you decide pixels and algorithms are not reliable, then you can say that's what it is, okay? So leave it at that. So the only way for you to get to your objectified world of your choice, your dream life, is to follow that invisible script and timeline. Unfortunately, in that invisible script and timeline, conversations happen, you travel places, you go and do things. Those are not incorporated in your timeline. So for example, if you've been in a relationship with your specific person for the last 20 years or whatever, 100 years or 10 days, you need to decide what you guys did, or the dinner you had, the conversations you had, the clothes you wore, the clothes you had to wash after you wore, the restaurants you visited, those kind of things. Unfortunately, you do have to put in the work to build your invisible timeline, because timelines are not empty, right? And if they're not full, how do they become a 3D? Similarly with messages, texts, emails, rejection letters, bills, you have to rewrite them, redo them. Whether you can do all of that, redo everything in your mind, but I have a feeling nobody retains anything they do in their mind unless it's down on paper or somewhere. So you gotta keep referring to the corrected version of everything. Okay, so I don't know what else to say, but this is the best I could come up with. If you guys have some super genius ideas, throw them down there, because I know not everybody is encouraged to think outside the box, outside what coaches tell them, but you're going to have to come up with innovative ways to keep your invisible, unseen timeline, which is just as real and existing in the same time and space. Remember, I talked about in another video, a dinosaur is literally walking across your room that you're sitting in right now. And that's happening in physicality, but you can't sense it or perceive it with your body or your environment. Okay? And the reason being is your filters. Your filters are so strong. So this is something that, if you keep that in mind and do exactly what I said, you should be building your invisible and unseen timeline, regardless of whether they call you back or send a message saying it was a glitch. Don't expect it to come in a certain way. Just expect the results to happen regardless. That's the law, right? Just expect the law to work. That's all you need to do. Expecting the law to do its job and to work is good enough for you. You don't need to figure out and expect that whether they're going to resend an email. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Who knows? Maybe you'll bump into them or you won't. Of course, if it's going to be satisfactory to you, so it's not going to hurt or harm you in any way. So your revelation or your encountering with the next steps or the process will be pretty acceptable to you. Is that, yeah, acceptable? Okay, so I would suggest you write stuff down that didn't go down as you wanted them to go down. Messages, emails, legal letters, documents, certificates, no matter how authoritative or how final and how devastating they are, just rewrite them differently, okay? And if you can't rewrite them, if it's not applicable to rewrite them, I would suggest write something else in its place. So for example, let's just say, take an extreme situation, somebody died and now you hold on, you have their death certificate. You can leave that alone as a piece of paper that's irrelevant to you and write down what you guys had for coffee instead that afternoon. Do you see what I mean? It's fucked up shit, but hey, this is what it is. This is the only way to objectify an invisible into your awareness. It comes into your awareness first, right? If you're aware of it, it's objective. So in order to objectify, you need to do some kind of referencing. Your brain loves referencing to things that's going on in order to keep its awareness going. So don't reference your awareness with the wrong stuff, and reference it with the desired stuff. Whether that's made up or not, it doesn't matter. Your brain's not going to care if you don't care, right? Your brain is under your control, not the other way around. So I hope this helps. I hope you guys get the message, because that's where I find the gap is. The gap is in the rewriting, the physical referencing. So every morning you wake up, I would suggest you open your diary or notebook and read the story of your life. Because if you open your phone, you're going to read the wrong story. The messages where they fought with you for the last 10 days, or where you had to go to court, or where your boss fired you, or where your colleague told you off, or whatever, the undesired script. So leave those alone. Like I said, if you can, delete them. If you can't, put something in its place. Okay? That you reference to instead, and say, oh, hey, wait, no, I have the corrected version of it. Remember, the thing with awareness is energy cannot be created or destroyed, so you can't leave an empty space in awareness. If you don't replace it with something else, you are doing yourself a disservice, because the default is what's visible is what your brain's going to pick up, and your awareness is going to pick up and keep picking that up. So unless and until you revisit what's relevant to you, and like I said, you're a perceptual being, you work with and function with your brain and body, you need some kind of 3D references. So I would say make a log in a notebook. Log out your life. If nothing happened for 20 years, write down the last 20 years. Take a page or two for each year, and write down like 40 pages. I know it's a little bit of work, but hey, it can be done in an afternoon or in a couple of days. So don't neglect that. And I think that's where a lot of people are finding they are not encouraged to, nor does anyone tell them what to do. Coaches are talking the big talk and taking your money, but hey, you're going to have to do something to keep your awareness going. It may seem like something pretty much common sense, but it's not, because this is not what's being taught. But I think this is what works. This is what will help you. So don't script in vain and don't affirm in vain. Do things with a purpose. The purpose is to reference your awareness to and say, hey, wait, no, brain. That message you see on WhatsApp, all those are glitches by our wonderful algorithmic social media makers and the useless humans who run this world. Instead, look at my diary and refer to that. That's been my life for the last 20 years, and I would suggest you keep flipping that and scripting that. There is no lie and there is no truth until you accept it as one. Alright, I'll leave you at that. Questions, comments, leave them below. Talk to you in the next video.